So, welcome to the Cellar Sessions podcast. I am Anna Spooner.
And Alexandre Freguin. And today we're going to travel to Argentina.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Good.
So, I probably should give a bit of an introduction to Argentina before we get going, and then we can ask a few questions. So, Argentina, obviously in South America. It is, I was about to say to the right, it's to the east of Chile. So those are the two kind of big powerhouse producers in South America. The main difference, I guess, is Argentina is famed for two things, and we're going to cover those in later podcast sessions. The two main things that kind of define Argentina as a region to grow are the altitude, particularly in Mendoza, I should say. We're focusing on Mendoza today, but everywhere in Mendoza is high up. You can't avoid it. It's a plateau. So you start at about 430 meters above sea level and you go up to 2,000 meters above sea level. So can't be avoided. That has a huge impact on the grapes, and we'll talk about that later. And then hail, because of the Andes and how close proximity Mendoza is to the Andes, loads of hail. So we'll talk about those two things in other sessions. But there's also low rainfall. So 220 centimeters, millimeters, pardon me, 220 centimeters would be a lot of rain.
A lot. We will be underwater.
It would be flooded. No, 220 millimeters of rain a year, which is on the cusp. Some places get a bit more than that. I was at a talk with Laura Catena a couple of weeks ago. She kind of declared that Mendoza is really on the brink of what is possible with viticulture, right? So lowest would be 220 to actually grow grapes, and they've got a little bit more than that, but not much more. And then Mendoza in general is basically the powerhouse of Argentina. So 76% of the production of wine comes from Mendoza. Obviously, there are other regions as well, but it's like, to make 3/4 of the whole country's wine in this area is impressive. And then there are provinces within Mendoza that are worth mentioning. You've kind of got a few key areas. Uco Valley, arguably now probably I don't know, maybe the most premium, but Uco Valley is probably the best known and the one you're going to see on labels. Then you've got things like the Primera Zone, you've got East Mendoza, South Mendoza. So you've got some cool hotspots for growing grapes. But it is a very old and a very traditional region. But it's traditional, I guess, because of your people, Alex.
Yes, our people, Alex, have a strong relationship with this grape variety, and actually, it's interesting because Malbec is directly associated with Argentina, and even more with Mendoza, where we will put these two words in the same sentence. If we put a bit of background into this, Malbec is a grape variety that was usually planted in the southwestern part of France. You could come across actually quite a lot of Malbec back in the days in Bordeaux, which is, I find that quite funny, with Bordeaux within being an altitude of 50 meters above the sea level, and Malbec ending up in those high-end mountains. There is quite a distortion, but it's most likely to be known in France in Cahors, especially with the reputation within the UK market to be the black wine, because it was very dark, very powerful, very dense, and could have kind of the thickness, some high tannins, quite rustic in a way. But genetically speaking, it's coming from two parents, which are called Prunelard and Madeleine Noire des Charentes. Prunelard is still quite grown, and you can come across some good example. But Malbec has traveled overseas, and actually there is a nice guy, Monsieur, who was an ampelographer and also agronome, Michel Aimé Pouget, that we can relate to the birth of Malbec in Argentina. But because he's been appointed to be in Argentina, and more especially in Mendoza, because he was actually working in Chile, basically. And he's been sent over by the governor to do a little bit of work and see if it's got a real French root to produce wine. So and it was in 1853. And it's actually related to the 17th of March, 17th of April, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's what we call the Malbec World Day.
Malbec Day.
But that's the background of this grape. Both of us being related to the UK, we've been pouring at least once a day a glass of Malbec to any customer within the UK. And I always question myself when I arrive, how could I define a classic Argentinian Malbec? Maybe you can help me on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you're right. So obviously what you've just spoken about, the Cajor black wine, very different to what they're making in Argentina now. And I think I would say, if I was to use one word, an adjective, this is really rubbish, but I'd say it's very friendly. So it's usually plums, red fruits, some black fruits, a nice mixture, but really ripe fruits compared to maybe a Cajor or even the Malbec you can find somewhere like Bordeaux. The tannins are softer, so they can be quite high. We'll discuss that maybe in the altitude session because it's quite interesting why they're high, but they tend to be soft. So high and soft. Higher than Merlot, but I'd say similar tannin to Merlot, like plummy, juicy. They haven't got as much grip as something like a Cabernet Sauvignon. And the acidity, again, high altitude will bring you some nice high acidity. So you get good balance. But overall, fruity wines. So Malbec is generally quite fruity. And it does have those high things, high tannins, high acidity, but they work in really nice harmony. So, hey, that's why it goes well with steak, right? Those
Basically,
things.
yes. But I agree with that. It's very well described. It was a bit my safe bet in a way.
Yeah.
That it's describing very well sometimes what the palate was expecting.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, as you say, it's got tannins and all, but it's well rounded. It could have the sort of like shape of an the appreciation of the wine doesn't have to be technical. For Malbec, it can be super accessible.
For sure.
And it can deliver from the entry-level, everyday style to really deeper and more complex single vineyard with an incredible complexity and depth.
I agree. And I think the other thing about Malbec is because you've got all these different altitudes and Mendoza in particular, all these different soils, we haven't even spoken about soils. You do get different iterations. And what I gave was quite a general overview. You add the scale of quality in and it's nuts. But you can, the higher up you get, for example, you might get violets, or you start to get these more kind of aromatic characters, more so than other Bordelais or Southwest French varieties, perhaps. You also get different oak treatments with Malbec. So, some people are doing slightly different things. But generally, if you're going to use a little bit of oak, Malbec might take on a slightly sweet spice as well. So there are lots of variables to play with. We've kind of described a classic Malbec, though. And that's what that's what people expect of Malbec. But there are new styles of Malbec, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great variety that, as you described, and there is that sort of like two sides. Tannins on the side and structure and delivering fruit at the same time, but we didn't talk much about the acidity. And once again, like the altitude effect and all that scale where you can take this grape variety combined with also a quite long period of maturation with a low decrease of the natural acidity, you can play a bit more. And from both sides, I have to say, because I think Argentina took over a sort of monopoly of Malbec, and now they're exploring the second stage between, as we say, fairly deeply complex single vineyard, but also I came across out of many examples, some people doing carbonic maceration, some very full fruit, flesh, digest style of Malbec. I have to say I have a bit of sweet spot when it's taken on the edge of being aged in other vessel like amphoras. I think it suits it very well. The stems are also something to take in consideration. They're all different layers. I'm not saying we're adding something to it, but they can be more juicier or more fruit to it. And believe me or not, but we in France, they started to look at those style, and I see it more and more, and I'm super excited by producer like Cos Maisonneuve, which are doing style of Malbec that you could drink the current vintage. They don't need to be aged forever, and they deliver so much pleasure. And in both cases, because I'm also thinking like some cuvée of Richie Telly was doing like a cuvée called A Malbec, label with a cartoon label and all, like everything you like about fun wines, but with quality behind. I'm not talking, we're still entering the frame of delivering quality, but just with a different vision or different reading of what we could drink. And he's doing that cuvée A Malbec that I will probably take that, on a daily basis. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would say to someone, I'm going out for a hike and then we have a picnic and I will bring a Malbec. They will look at you and say, no way. Are you bringing the barbecue as well?
Yeah.
And not. And I think that it's a great variety with all those combination of viticulture and specific condition are really highlighting the potential of versatility of the grape variety.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned French and Argentinian producers there, but even just I'm thinking in my head of some of my favorites. To counter what you've just said, you've got someone like Weinert who's making really old aged Malbec blends in massive tonneaux, that haven't been cleaned for a million years, and they manage their Brit, for example. And and then you have the flip side to that, which is that, like you say, this new wave that's more light, refreshing. You can have it with your baguette rather than your...
It's a very interesting, versatile grape
Yeah.
that you can play with. And if I can be honest also, you can find some value for money, which is ridiculous. Like not as far as yesterday, actually. I was in a wine shop in Lyon. You could drink a wine with an appellation d'origine or a location from both sides because they had some Cahors and they also had some Mendoza Malbec, both sides below 15 euros.
Yeah.
And ready to drink. I buy that.
Yeah.
I buy that 100%.
And you know what you're getting with Malbec, right?
And also, I mean, it delivers.
Yeah.
So I'm quite excited about it. I drink more and more, I have to say, of this grape.
Well, the bottle that we've got is sort of the opposite.
Yeah, we're a bit more fancy on that.
Yeah, we've gone fancy. We've got Catena Zapata's sort of top cuvée, which is more in the region of about 100 euros. And if you get a chance to taste it, please do. It's one of those kind of great, fun, amazing wines. Tells the story of Malbec. You could have just used this bottle for your history of Malbec.
Yeah.
It talks about Eleanor of Aquitaine. It's got the women on it. Phylloxera, which we didn't mention, another reason why, and the frost, another reason why Malbec even came to Argentina, because it was so tricky to grow it in France. The French, you all just gave up, didn't you? You were like...
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, I have to say.
Let's go over to the warm, sunny place.
But if I can ask you, because we talk a lot about this grape variety.
Lots of Malbec.
And it's the main production. And actually, there is other thing happening. And there is other family, which could be divided between, I would say, the international family.
Yeah.
And the Criolla family that we will discuss a bit later on. But if you have to pull out some other international grapes that are striving and doing exceptionally well, what would you say?
So I've got two other French imports, maybe three. First of all, Chardonnay. So I think Chardonnay in Argentina's fun. You've got that altitude in places like Mendoza, but you've got other parts of Argentina doing Chardonnay well as well. You've got all sorts of styles. Another actually Bodega Catena comparison is White Stones and White Bones. If you haven't tried those two wines side by side, they're great fun. Two different soil types, relatively close by to each other in Mendoza, and they're really playing with this idea of like Chablis style versus Southern Burgundian or more New Worldish style. But particularly Chardonnay in the Uco Valley for me is one to watch. You then have Bonada, which not to be confused with the Italian Bonada. And I think that's the first bottle of wine we ever shared together, or very early on in our friendship.
100%, 100%, you're right.
It tastes Italian, but it's not, right? That's also French.
It has a relationship with the region,
Yeah.
which, without going too much in depth and making enemies, has been at some point Italian, but it's actually, let's call it Alpine.
Alpine
Alpine.
wine.
I'm very diplomatical
Very
into
diplomatic,
this.
yeah.
Definitely.
And then I think also, everybody's growing it. It's maybe a bit less exciting, but Cabernet Sauvignon is still really important in Argentina. It's the kind of third imported grape, should we say. But you have a particular sweet spot for, well, two different grape varieties, but you love the Criollas, don't you?
I'm quite keen on that. It's probably the let's say the sommelier background coming up. You always want to chase the next hidden game and that next thing going on. And I think they have some very specific profile that are playing the family of being leafy, herbal, delicate, with acidity. A lot of the relationship in terms of DNA are with Muscat and other variety. And actually, a fun fact on this, that I was reading a big study paper, and altitude has a very strong impact on the Muscat family.
Okay.
Which is actually higher you go in a cooler diurnal differences, so from the temperature between day and night, higher your Muscat character will come up with a family of flavor called terpene.
Yeah.
And they tend to come up way more in those altitudes. So I finally find a way to justify the relationship between Storantes, Salta region, and Susana Balbo.
Nice.
Which
Susana
makes my
Balbo.
life easier. But that was interesting to look at that. I believe that there is always a reason behind everything, and they could be historical, they could be technical, and it's striving over there. So I'm quite keen on Torrontés, and to be very honest, it's the first Argentinian wine that I've tasted in my life. Was 14 years ago, and it was a Torrontés from Bodega Etchart that I've bought in a wine shop called Antique Wine in Lyon. And I tell you why, because it was the cheapest in the shop. So I was like, let's give a go. And that was super good. And became my best friend in blind tasting, because you can spot it from miles away.
Yeah.
I should never say that. And I'm quite keen on Syrah. I came across some very good Syrah in the region of San Juan.
Yeah.
It's a great variety. I have a love and hate relationship. And once again, the scientific part shows that actually rotundone, so the peppery character, increase when you have a cooler temperature during the veraison, and also higher you go, higher you will intensify your rotundone character. So I thought it was quite interesting, and I like a good splash of black pepper in my glass. So yeah, I will say these two, and maybe you can tell us a bit more about the southern part and the wild escape in Patagonia.
Before then, I must say there is one thing we've missed that I think we both enjoyed, because again, you run an amazing event with your partner in the summer, and I've bought this wine from you at that event. But Cabernet Franc. Actually, why did we miss that?
I already gave Malbec to Argentina. I can't give them Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc is when done well. Oh my God, Cabernet Franc from Argentina is so good. And why am I being an enemigo as a producer? If you have the chance
super
to,
solid.
Yeah, seek them out. My goodness, those wines are so good. But yeah, you asked me about the South, because obviously it's not just all about Mendoza. Yeah, I mean, I've got a soft spot for Patagonia. I think Patagonia wines are so good. You get these, obviously you're moving further south, you're moving towards the equator, so away from the equator. So instead of altitude being your defining feature for things like your acidity, you're working away from the heat. So you're getting cooler. But for me, it's just about aromatics, anything aromatic. So Pinot Noir from Patagonia is just heaven. And it doesn't really taste like Pinot Noir from anywhere else in the world, light, spicy, red, red curranty, just heaven. So I'd put a punt in for Patagonian Pinot. That was a lot of P's. What about you? Where
actually,
else in
I
Argentina?
will join you, and I had some very, very, very interesting discovery made still in Patagonia, in Rio Negro, and all these parts with some 100 years old Trousseau. I've mentioned Matthias Riccitelli, but I'm thinking about someone else, which I think is worth to keep an eye on, is Marcello Miras, doing outstanding Trousseau and outstanding Semillon out there, which have been a bit like my, hidden card of the Somme in the restaurant, just coming up like, today I'm taking you from UK when I was on the floor to Patagonia within 12 centiliters. So that's...
I've not tried those, so
and they are matching also a bit some vinification that I've mentioned a bit, softer one, getting a bit away from new oak, which that was a bit my restrictive point on Argentina in general. Not in my personal point of view, but from people expectation, just expecting oak over grape and site expression. And Argentina is way more than that. And I like to see that now they are recognized internationally for top high quality. And I have to say one more thing about Argentina that's annoys me, but after Paris, Buenos Aires is actually the country in the world that drinks the highest amount of wine. So that's an interesting thing.
That leads us nicely, actually, on to next week's episode, because the next episode we're going to be doing is about visiting Argentina, and particularly about visiting Mendoza. So hopefully that overview was very helpful. To remind everyone, we are going to visit Argentina, specifically visiting the Mendoza region on the next episode. And then we're going to cover two of the important topics that I mentioned at the beginning. So we're going to cover hail, and we're going to cover wines grown at altitude. And we'll do them as kind of theory sessions with a focus around Mendoza, but covering the why is it important and what on earth are we talking about. So... any more to add?
Actually, that reminds me some very, very good moment I had in Argentina overall. So good.
You're looking forward to telling me about them then?
100%.
Okay, until next time.
Merci beaucoup.
If you enjoyed this episode of Cellar Sessions, then don't forget to hit subscribe for your weekly fix of Anna and Alex.